Hello all and welcome to Wow Crochet Designs. My name is Mary and in today's tutorial we will be working on the half double crochet stitch. It is a beginner tutorial specifically for beginners to learn the half double crochet stitch. At the end of this tutorial, however, if you continue on with some information that I gave you, you will end up with a beautiful washcloth, okay? So head off on your own at the end of the tutorial and complete the rows I tell you to complete. In the meantime, you will learn how to do the half double crochet stitch. You will learn how to use a couple of stitch markers. And if you don't have stitch markers, I show you how to use the thread instead, which is just as good. You will also learn how to weave in the final end with your sewing needle, and I show you how to do that. And then you will head off on your own and weave in your beginner thread. And that's about it. All right, so I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm just going to let you head off and create your gorgeous, or make and learn your gorgeous half double crochet stitch. Good luck all. Alrighty guys, for the purpose of today's tutorial, we are going to be using Caron Cotton Cakes, yes. Going right to the label at the back, you will notice that it calls for a 5mm hook. It is actually a 4-weight yarn, a 4-weight medium yarn to be exact, or it's a 10-ply here in Australia, or it's an Aran weight yarn. Cotton, if you will, as we're working with cotton today. So anything 10-ply, anything Aran weight, anything 4-weight in a cotton, this pattern will work. It will work on anything, but specifically for washcloths, you would be best using a cotton. Yep. You could use acrylic if you like. I don't ever suggest using wool for a washcloth, but preferably a cotton, yeah? All right, and it calls for the 5mm hook from which we are using today. Yes, there's your 5mm, 5.0mm. Sometimes it's up the top, sometimes it's along the side, and sometimes it's at the back, depending on the hook that you are using. You will also need your scissors, a pair of scissors, if you're going to make the washcloth with us. You will also definitely, if you're making that washcloth, need this sewing needle with the eye. See the little eye right there? Big enough for your thread to go through. Yeah, I'm not going to thread it for now. This one is actually a weaving, it's more of a weaving sewing needle. It kind of, it's like a darning needle really. It's used for when you're doing upholstery and things. But I use this a lot in my crochet because it's easier to find stitches when you are sewing, let's say side seams to a cardigan or to a sleeve. It's easier to find the loops, and we'll talk about that in the future. Don't worry about it now. If you've got one with a straight needle and a normal pointy needle, it doesn't matter, yeah? This is just something that I like to use for comfort. It's more comfort for me. We have 2 stitch markers here. Now, these aren't necessary. I will show you how to use your thread to mark the stitch. But I like to use these. They're relatively big, lots of space in here, pointy enough to go through my stitches. So I need 2 today. And if you are making the washcloth, some sort of thread or something, you can use a safety pin as well, paper clip, whatever you have, to help mark your stitches when you are new. It is best to mark your stitches, yeah? All right, so grabbing your thread, if you have not made a chain first, I would suggest going right back to our very first tutorial in our beginners playlist. I've left a link in the description box or the more information box down below. Click on more, and the very first stitch in there, it's called a chain, and it shows you how to make a little chain bracelet as well. It just gives you a little something to play with, yeah? Like today, we're going to learn the stitch, and then you can actually make a little washcloth with yours. So right now we're going to do a quick slip knot. Grab the tail end of your yarn, wrap it around your finger once and twice, holding it there and holding it down there. Grab the back loop, passing it halfway over your finger, hold it there. Grab the other loop, passing it all the way over your finger, and what you formed is that little loop in there. Pop your hook in that loop and just give everything a tug. This tail's a little too long, but still it's good to have a little bit of a longer tail for weaving in later. Yeah. All right, we're just going to chain a few stitches just to start with, and that's yarn over your hook, pull a loop through once, yarn over, twice, yarn over, 3, yarn over, 4. Don't make them too loose and don't make them too tight, yeah? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and let's just do 15 for the sake of doing a certain amount of stitches, all right? If you are going to make a washcloth out of this, go ahead and make 30 chains altogether, all right? Pause right here and make your 30 chains instead of 15, all right? So do that, but in the meantime, we are going to put our yarn over our hook and start our half double crochet straight away. So yarn over your hook, you are going to skip chains that we made. So you're going to skip one little loop there, you're going to skip that second loop, and you're going to jump into the third loop. Now that doesn't work for all of half double crochet patterns, but for this one here where you want to make a little washcloth, that's what you do. Pop your hook in that top loop of the stitch. Now notice I'm still holding that loop there. When you put your yarn over your hook, you hold it with your thumb and you skip 1, 2, and you jump into that third right there. Pop your hook in, one loop only, pull a loop through, and you should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook. All right. Now in some patterns, they will ask you to pop a stitch marker in, and it will be either through the top loops of your chain of your stitch there, or through the top loops of those chains right there, or the top chain there. Now let me show you how to do your piece of thread. I have to find a piece of thread first. Here we go. All right, so this is the stitch that you are in. This is the one before it. Pop your hook in there, and you're popping it with your 2 loops on top, grabbing your piece of thread, any colour, it doesn't matter. Pull it through like so, and very gently just give it a light knot. Not a big one, just a light one like that. All right, at the end of the row when we're ready to come back, this is a stitch marker right here. That's the stitch that we need to make our half double crochet in later. I'm going to take this undone because I like the stitch markers, but that's the one you're going to use, all right? We'll just pop it in the double crochet. I'm sorry, let's try half double crochet right there, yep. And so there it is. In the meantime, we are going to yarn over our hook and pop a half double crochet in each chain across. So you're skipping that loop that you're in because you're already in there, and you're going to go to the next loop. If you're not sure where it is, give it a stretch and you can see the space. You're popping your hook in that little space there. With a top loop, pull a loop through like normal. I'm still holding my work, but once you let go, you should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Once again, into the top loop of the next stitch, pull a loop through, still holding the work, now letting go, yarn over, pull through all 3. So when you put your yarn over, you hold it there, you pop it in your next loop, you pull through a loop, and then you can let go and you've got all 3 loops. And off you go. You don't always need to hold it. After a while, I kind of just get used to not worrying about holding it, and sometimes I just do it so loosely that I haven't realised I've actually am holding it and didn't even know I was. Yeah, like that. Oh, I'm going too fast, aren't I? I'm sorry, guys. So just quickly going all the way across until we get to the end of this row here. And I'll show you how to count your stitches as well. Count is very important, especially when you are making outfits, dresses, jumpers, vests, all sorts of things, anything really, so you don't lose your stitches or gain stitches, yeah? All right, so we've got one last stitch there, and then you've got your knot attached. So yarn over your hook, go into the very last stitch, and it's one loop only. Pop your hook through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook. There's your little knot. You don't go into that one. I'm just going to lift it for a minute so you can have a look at the stitches. Your stitches should look like that. See this one right here? And the reason it's like that is because I pulled it too tight when I was doing it. It sort of adjusted itself there, yeah? So that's what you're looking at. Now I'm going to show you quickly how to count your stitches and then how to do a repeat row. So these are the stitches. Let me show you quickly with the sewing, darning, weaving needle. These top 2 loops that you see in every stitch, and it looks like the letter V, by the way. We call it the V in our industry. So you're popping your needle into the V, both loops of the V. You almost saw me accidentally going into that front loop only or the back loop only. That's a whole new stitch in itself, which I'll show you in another tutorial. But for now, you are going through both the loops in the space. So that's how you count your stitches. And in my case, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 stitches. All right, so it doesn't matter how many you have, as long as, see this row right here? You repeat that amount of stitches all the way through. Don't lose any stitches and don't add any stitches unless the pattern calls for it. So we are going to start again. Pop your hook back in your stitch. Chain 1. Now this is the repeat row that we're going to do now. Okay, there's your work. Now what we do in crochet here, we're going to work along these stitches, is we turn our work. We can turn it that way and work along the stitches this way. Or we can turn it the other way. There is no right or wrong way of doing it. I recently heard someone say, that's the wrong way of doing it. There isn't. Okay? Just whatever you do, remain consistent. If you're going to turn this way, keep turning that way throughout your work. If you're going to turn that way, keep turning that way throughout your work. The only reason I go this way is because it reminds me that I've turned like I turn the page in a book. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right or wrong way of doing it. So turn your work. And now you're going to work along those V's that I showed you before. But just being wary with the half double crochet, once it's turned, it can sometimes look like these are the 2 loops of the V, which they are not. They are the side loops. To work out where to do your half double crochet, you need to face your work towards you and see the V's, all right? So start with skipping that chain. That chain is only there just to help you turn, okay? So yarn over your hook, you're skipping that little chain, and you're going into the very first stitch, which is right there. So pop your hook in that stitch. You should have 2 loops on top. Notice how I faced it towards me, and then pull your loop through like so. Yarn over your hook and pull it through all 3 loops on your hook. Now, if you had 30-something stitches across before and you're making the washcloth, then you should still have the exact same amount, yeah? All right, so there you go. At the end of this row, by the way, your stitch marker goes into your first stitch in every row now and into your last stitch in every row. We'll talk about that in a minute, yeah? So all you're doing is yarn over your hook. You're doing your half double crochet in the very next stitch. Make sure you face your work towards you so you can see it, and do your half double crochet in the stitch. We're going to into the stitch like normal all the way across your row. Super duper easy. Now the reason I like to do washcloths when I do these kind of tutorials is so that you can have a little practice of the stitch, and practice means that your tension will even itself out. Like you might find some of your stitches will be shorter than others, and that is because your tension is all over the place, which is normal when you're first starting, yeah? All right, when you get towards the end of your row, I've got 2 stitches left. How I can tell is I'm counting these little V's right here. Got your yarn over your hook, you're going straight into that second last stitch. Yeah. And in your last stitch, you are putting your hook in the stitch marker right there. Well, not stitch marker, in the stitch marker stitch, yeah? Go into the stitch where your stitch marker is, pull a loop through, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Take out your stitch marker. You can actually take that out a little earlier or halfway through the stitch if you like. And let's have a look-see right here. All right, so that's what you should have. To check that you have correct stitches like we did before, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It should be exactly the same as before in your previous row. Yeah? So that is pretty much it, guys. You're going to do exactly the same. You're going to chain 1, and if you've got your 30 stitches or 31 stitches across, or whatever it is, 29, just chain 1, flip your work, and do that row again. So yarn over your hook right into your first stitch with your half double. Notice I faced it towards me, pull a loop through, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook, grabbing your stitch marker, and you're going to continue your row. All right, and just keep going like so, all the way across. Super duper easy. All right, so that's pretty much how you do a half double crochet stitch. So if you wanted to continue on to make your washcloth, just keep repeating this row over and over and over again. Quick tip before you go, when you leave your work, grab a different coloured stitch marker, different size, whatever, pop it in the loop of your work and just pull your work shut, and you will never lose your tail. Yeah, it'll just keep pulling like that. Now, the other thing you need to know before you go, finish off your piece. Let's say for argument's sake, you got to the very last stitch, which was here. We'll take this undone and I'll show you how to finish off your work. Let's pretend like you're on your last row and you've done your last stitch there, like so. You've finished your washcloth. All you're doing is pulling a loop through like normal, cutting your work with the scissors, whatever scissors you had. I used a very small one there, and just give it a tug. And then you need to grab your sewing needle and you need to weave that end in. You could take out your last stitch marker, okay? And just quickly, I'll show you quickly how to weave your end in, popping your thread through the eye of your needle, like so, yes? And then you're going to weave in your work, any place you like, all right? What I like to do is actually, I did pull that a little bit too tight, didn't I? Is actually turn it around and start going back into other stitches anywhere you like. Now, I'm very pedantic about my ends, so I pop it through one stitch at the back, like so. I don't pull it too tight, but I pull it tight enough, yeah? Then I literally go in and out of stitches there. And I actually do an absolute no-no where I even split yarn like that and in through the back of the stitch. Just checking the front that you can't see your work. Now you decide what, which one the front is, but there you go. That's what I do. If you do this, guys, quick heads up, this won't come undone. So make sure your work is correct. So pop your loop through, just straighten it all up and just keep going, splitting yarn, an absolute no-no. Yeah, I'm showing you all the no-nos, all the naughty things you can do that you're not allowed to do, that you shouldn't do, yeah? Do you like that, all the naughty things? But there you go, popping your hook. I'm sorry, let's try needle through there, like that, and just all the way through. Now you can go as far as you like. I think I'll do one more and just go in through the 2 stitches here. I'll just go through the 2 stitches like normal, and then I'll show you what you do here. Pop it through your 2 stitches, yeah? You turn your work, and on the way back, you split a little bit of that first stitch, And then you can go through the stitches again. Different stitching so you don't unravel what you just did. Now I can see that needle all the way through there. So I've done that wrong. So it might pay, you split that first stitch, just do a couple of stitches first so that you're not messing up. Yeah? Keep going all the way through. And you're going to go back the same way you came once again, doing a naughty no-no, hand splitting stitches. A naughty no-no, do you like that? A naughty no-no. And just pull it through like so. Then when you get to the part where you think you've got, you've done heaps, grab I've got another pair of scissors just to show you, just for fun. Grab a pair of scissors, give it a cut, and just a gentle tug for it to sit in place. That is how you weave that end in. And right at the very beginning, you have this one here. Do the same. I would actually bring that thread up through some stitching and then weave it through one of the next row or something. But that's entirely up to you. All right. So your job now, guys, is to head off on your own. Do your 30 rows, 20 rows, 15 rows. I would suggest probably 18 to 20 rows to make your washcloth the size of your hand. It'll be like that, It'll be like 20 centimeters or 8 inches, yeah? So it doesn't matter, it's just a rough guide of how many stitches and how many rows you'll need for a washcloth. All right, thank you very much for joining me today, guys. Don't forget to join us at 4 p.m. Wednesday afternoons and Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. for our lives. That's Melbourne Australia time, by the way, and you will have an opportunity as a subscriber to choose the colour combination of our very next project. Thank you so much for joining me. Good luck creating your half double crochet washcloth. Ciao for now.